welcome to episode 57 of More, a podcast designed to inspire, encourage and support women to make changes both big and small in their lives. And this week we're talking to an amazing eco-influencer. I'm Jo Merrick. I am a mum of two teenagers. I live just outside London in the UK, and I'm a co-founder of Treasure and Light, an eco gift store online. And I also support people up-leveling their health with doTERRA essential oils.
And my name is Serena Novelli. I am a body confidence and sexual empowerment coach, also based in Surrey, and a busy mummy of 5.
So today, as you can see, we've got a guest. We're super excited. And yes, Jill Perkins is an eco-influencer. She's also a mum of twins. But a lot of people might know her as Jill. She's of JamJarGill on Instagram and .com. She's got her own site, and we're really, really excited to be talking to her today. We've touched on this subject before. Serena and I have done a previous episode where we talked about our battles in our home to try and make changes for the better, but also with our other halves and our children, and, you know, generally make some difference in the world. But we're not experts. And we'd like to think Jill is. So, Jill, would you like to just give us a very brief introduction to who you are?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, becoming an eco-influencer is something which has kind of happened organically for me. It wasn't where I started my blogging journey, but I just love it, and it's come about really naturally. I think, you know, I was always brought up, my mum was very much into just trying to get us to have an appreciation of nature and that sort of thing. You know, she was a primary school teacher. We always embraced things like secondhand and recycling and anti-food waste and stuff. It wasn't really labelled as being an eco-influencer or anything at the time.
Well, what era are we talking? When would that have been, Jill?
I was born in 1983,
yeah, those labels didn't really exist, did they?
No, they didn't. But I always remember her just, you know, wanting to do it for her, really. And so it was, I guess it just made it normal to me. And it was only when I kind of became an adult that I realised, you know, it wasn't necessarily normal to everyone else. And I think that's like interesting because it's kind of half the battle with kids, and that's what I try and do with mine. I mean, mine are only 4.5. But, you know, it's just normal that they will ask me what bin something goes in. You know, they won't just go and put it in the main way. So I'm a bit of a geek with the label maker ever since I got one, to be honest. So I'd like actually labelled all the bins as well. But
I don't know why this vision of a label on a child's forehead. You're like, oh, sorry, darling.
Yeah, I know. It can get out.
Can you put it into context? So you've jumped from, like, I get that your early influence was your mum, but then as an adult, what was your background professionally, and then how did you actually become JamJarGill? That's what I want to know.
So basically I have a media degree. I did media production BTEC. I did want to be a TV presenter at one point, so it'll be interesting if I do make it on YouTube. But the game changer for me was this film I watched called Julia and Julie. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So basically it was all about Julia Childs, if you've heard of her.
Yeah.
So she's a woman who brought French cooking to America. And basically this film, I highly recommend everyone to watch it. But it was like a split timeline. So it followed her in the 1950s going to Paris, following her husband who worked for the government.
I've seen it on a plane. I remember now. Yeah. Great film.
And then it had a woman in like 2001 or something who was working in the call centre post Twin Towers. And so she had like a really depressing government job as well. And she decided to, on the side, it was right in the infancy of blogging, to do a blog, which she took herself, I think it was a year to cook her way through the art of French cooking, which was Julia Child's book, and blog about it. And at the time I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to find a platform to find my own voice on. And that was kind of the start of my blogging journey, as I just kind of took it from there and I started.
That's amazing. I would not have thought that would be the answer to my question and where it was started.
So and then I started with a recipe blog, and then when we bought a house, I then did another blog on doing up the house. And then I was speaking to a friend in PR and saying, you know, I really do want to make this into a proper side hustle and things. And she said, well, if you want that, then you're going to have to get some regularity to your content. And so what she suggested is I amalgamated the two blogs because I was really struggling to keep up with them both. And that sort of came about. And then I was looking for a name for it. And at that point in time, I was working at the British Standards Institute, actually. And but I had a bunch of friends, and one of the things was they didn't provide tea bags. So I used to bring in my tea bags and my sugar and stuff all in jam jars. And so I got the nickname JamJarGill. And my friend Kendra, she used to always like write in birthday cards and stuff, like my darling JamJarGill. And so then when I needed a name, I was like, actually, that's kind of cute. And it could be like adapted. And like now I've got my VA business. So I call it JJG VA Services. So it's like it has the potential to be expanded, you know, into different realms as and when I need it to. But then, so that was kind of an entity in itself, and it was developing organically. You know, sometimes I was blogging. I would categorize it as a lifestyle blog, really.
Yeah.
And then, but I guess I always naturally had an eco twist to it because that was part of my personality. And then I kind of got to lockdown, and you know, I'd heard people talking about find a niche, and I never really knew how to and stuff. And I can't even tell you what specific catalyst it was which kind of drew me in. I think it was that I was looking into like networking opportunities on Instagram and stuff like that. And I'd recently heard about this concept of meetups, as opposed to like the whole looping concept, which obviously can be really quite a negative experience. And I just sort of started looking up, well, you know, I love everything eco, so I don't see if there's an eco meetup. And I think I found a couple, and then I started connecting with more and more people. Right. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I found my people, like, because they were just all very much
a community, right?
Yeah, like-minded people. And I think honestly it just developed organically from there. And I think over lockdown it's kind of a bit of a juxtaposition because we weren't able to see people physically. No. But I think actually the online communities became incredibly supportive spaces. And, you know,
Serena knows this. She did exactly that, didn't you, Serena?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that's like part of your why, your motivation of how you've like evolved as such, like going into lockdown and then having that online community and being able to meet, and when you can mix with people that have the same kind of they want to do the same thing as you, they have the same values as you, it just seems to flow so much more naturally, doesn't it?
It does, 100%. And I think I got more and more into that space. You know, I've been into yoga for a long time. I've done it since I was 15, and I've very much always been part of the yoga community locally and know all the different yoga teachers. And so I've seen them be freelance, and I've always, I don't know, I just never really knew whether I could do it or how I could do it, but I was trying to build up the blogging brand and the eco-influencer business. And I was kind of making little bits and bobs of money here and there. And then I kind of, again, over lockdown, sorry, my cat's just come in, I just got to a place where I didn't really feel like the office job which I had was really working with my life and with the kids and everything anymore. And then, you know, I was listening to a lot of actually podcasts, because podcasts, again, is something which has just absolutely boomed, haven't they, during this time? Because I think
That's right.
Like that sort of speak media has become just, people love that interaction and that connection and listening to conversations and everything.
Definitely.
So I've been listening to a lot of entrepreneurs and stuff. So I'd heard about the concept of VA, and then I kind of knew I have like a couple of different WhatsApp groups of people I've met on Instagram, like the Twin Mummies Instagram group and stuff like that. And a couple of them were talking about, oh, you know, I might start as a VA. And then I knew another friend who started as a VA. And I just kind of thought, well, actually, maybe this is the missing puzzle piece for me, because I needed some sort of regularity of income so I could actually drop the day job and do something with my brand, which connected in with it. And I launched in January. And then sort of went fully freelance as of May. Wow. So it's still quite early days.
Yeah, but fantastic.
Oh my God, it's already the best decision I've ever made in my life. It's just amazing because it just means that you're so close to source, and you're just kind of connecting with people who have interests which you're interested in, and you're getting the creative aspects. And I think as well, you know, a lot of mums, a lot of people after having kids, but unfortunately, it's especially mums in our society, you know, do get a raw deal when we go back to work, you know, and this is a lot of stuff which I've been hearing about recently. I've really got into the Mary Porter's podcast. I don't know if you listen to that, and Work Like a Woman and all that. But it's just like this whole work like a human thing. She said she would have called the book Work Like a Human, but it probably wouldn't have sold so well. But that's the kind of point that she's getting at.
Absolutely.
Is like, why are we in 2021 getting encouraged to pretend we don't have kids at interview? And, you know, throughout the working experience and we don't have other challenges and things. Like I've had insomnia and anxiety on and off since having the children. And, you know, it's just seen as almost like a pain in the backside, unfortunately. And it wasn't unique to my workplace by any means. And they didn't, you know, it's just a cultural thing within like the office environment, I think.
It is 100%. You're right. I mean, and this, I know it's something Serena's really passionate about. She's been working for Anne Summers for many years, and it's really important to you, isn't it, Serena, to offer that opportunity to mums, especially to have that independence, that they can work on their own hours to fit around everybody. And that's exactly one of the things that what I do as well with doTERRA is it is offering somebody freedom, really.
Yeah, because I think unfortunately it's the case that, I mean, maybe some of this is in my own head, but I think a lot of it is in the society that we live in, unfortunately, that it's almost like, well, you're so lucky to be able to work part-time. So you've got a really excellent deal already. So now you want something extra on top of that. Well, why on earth do you want that? You know, or why do you want some extra flexibility or, you know, whatever? Because it's just where it's just your own life. It's your own life when you're freelance, and it's such a wonderful freeing thing that, you know, knowing that if I have a bad night's sleep, then that's my problem to kind of sort out, and I can have a day of rest because my body needs it. And then, you know, I can work the evenings or whatever. And it's that kind of whole flexible piece. And
I do exactly the same. It's really important to me to get vitamin D and be in the sun. And if it's a really sunny day, if I choose to get up an hour or two earlier and work the whole evening, because then I can spend time outside in the day. And that's really important to me when I can do that. Really
100%, important. 100%. Another person who I follow who I absolutely love is Mother Pucker. Do you know her?
No.
Oh my gosh, you have to follow her. She's amazing. So she's
loving the name.
That's her screen name, obviously, Mother Pucker. Anna, I can't remember her surname now. I'll have to send it to you after.
Yeah, please do. We'll put it in the comments. Yeah.
She actually is also a radio presenter on Heart Radio now. But she's written several books. One is called Parenting the Shit Out of Life.
Love it.
And one's called something like Where the Hell is My Happy Ending, which she wrote with her husband. And it's all about the concept of marriage and what our perception of what it should be versus what it actually is and everything, but fascinating. But she just fights tooth and nail for flexible working, and she does something called the Flex Appeal, and she's actually like been in government with it and like really pushing it through. And her books are like brilliant because they're interesting and they're really talking about the nitty gritty of the reality of being a parent.
Yes, absolutely. The stuff they don't tell you, right?
Absolutely. But also like the answers to the questions as well. Like I think it's in Parenting the Shit Out of Life. They go through and they give you like all the answers you should give to a HR representative, like when they say things to you.
Right.
But unfortunately, at the moment, a lot of businesses, and I hope the pandemic is going to make people think a bit more.
I know.
Fingers and toes crossed.
I know, you do fear, don't you? You fear that this will soon become a distant memory and everybody will just go back to it. I know, I'm in dread.
Yeah.
Tell me, Jill, do you feel you've been well received by people? Like the changes that you've made and how you presented that on Instagram and publicly? Yes. Did you have any resistance from anybody?
I don't think so, touch wood, because I think I always try and be a very positive person. That's always how I try to project myself.
Definitely.
And I'm always trying to be very open, and I'm always interested to talk to people about their opinions and stuff. And, you know, I would always describe myself as, you know, whilst being green, I'm realistic green. You know, and I think that's the wonderful thing about, you know, to coin a phrase, green turning mainstream, is in order for it to happen, we need to accept that people's lives are busy, people have budgets. Reality is, you know, we're not going to see those massive changes until legislation changes and, you know, corporate supply chains change. But we can make small changes in our own lives, and we should be celebrating those. And that's kind of what my account is, I hope, trying to get across. It's like, you know, thank you for being a conscious consumer. Thank you for thinking. That's the first thing that I want you to do, is just not be mindless about what you're consuming. And I think, you know, we can make a lot of change by just being those people and slowing things down a bit and thinking about those things, and that's what I aim to do. So I think, you know, the whole piece around not being, you know, a warrior, even though sometimes I use the hashtag, you know, war on waste or whatever, but I'm not really that kind of aggressive approach to things. And I think I try and like live and let live. I think that's just the way I am, really.
And that makes you relatable. Like you say, you're going to probably reach more people in that way. I know with the essential oils, when I do a class, you know, I know plenty of people who do what I do, who have cut out lots of things, lots of alcohol, etc. No judgment whatsoever, but I'm not that person. And when I say to them, I still like a glass of Prosecco and a bag of chips, sometimes with some audiences, you feel that they connect with you because you're like them, you know, they're like, oh, she's a bit like me, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so true. I think if you can be real, and I think that's the kind of parent I am as well. You know, I'm not one of these parents who, sorry, my tripod keeps slipping.
That's all right.
But I think, you know, I'm a realistic parent, and can I swear?
Yeah, I do a lot.
Okay.
Serena always holds back, but I don't.
Just like, I guess I'm kind of the person who goes, yeah, it's fucking hard, but, you know, we're doing our best to share. And I'm that kind of person, and I'd rather be that kind of mum, you know, maybe not say that word in front of the kids, but you know what I'm saying, rather than sitting there going, oh, isn't it just a dream? Isn't it just wonderful? You know,
I wonder who those people are.
I just think if you can be real, then it relates to other people. And I think, you know, that's a whole thing on the wellness piece as well. You know, I openly say I have my struggles with anxiety, and I love that people are talking about mental health so much more. You know, I had a friend round for a cup of tea this morning after the school run, and I was just saying, you know, because when you're open about your own mental health, then people are then open about their mental health, and that then keeps the conversation going. And you know, it's not about jumping on bandwagons or being overly dramatic or all that sort of thing. It's about
being authentic. Yeah, Serena and I, that's partly why we do what we do, and we are very open and honest, you know, and talk about the things that go wrong, and our fears and our anxieties and our history of mental health. And don't we, Serena?
We talked about vaginas the other day, didn't we?
We did orgasms last week. That's coming out this evening.
Orgasms. Absolutely. So being a sex coach, that's one of my favourite topics, obviously. Going back to your topic, for those that are listening in, how can they be a little bit more conscious? What couple of maybe simple changes could they start to make now that is going to help to implement and make a difference in the future?
I honestly think, like I was saying before, the absolute first step is to think where things go, think what happens to the end of life of that product, but also think how that's made in the first place. And that thread can go all the way through, because if you pick up like an item of clothing and you look at like, without, you know, we're busy people, you can like take it to the next level, but it's just thinking about it and being aware of stuff. And like, okay, like the other day, give you an example, that's the easiest way to explain things. Our base sheet on our bed, you know, with the stretchy corners, the stretchy corner went, and I was like, okay, I need some new base sheets. And so I looked up and I was just like, do you know what? I am going to invest in organic cotton ones, because I've learned over the last couple of years the difference between producing organic cotton versus, you know, other standard cotton, and how much extra water, extra chemicals, all these things, which, so it was like a conscious decision. I was like, right, we need a new one of those. Right.
As a result of you actually taking enough interest to have looked at something, to have read something previously. So you're saying that there was a catalyst for that choice that you made, and it was self-informing. You had made the effort to find out more.
But I think by joining like these community groups and everything, it does just like, it just comes to the forefront of your brain then. And I think this is why it's so important for platforms like this, where we're having these conversations, because someone will listen to this and go, I didn't know about cotton. You know, I didn't know about cotton until someone mentioned it to me.
Exactly.
You know, I was just of the opinion, well, cotton is natural, so that must be better, you know, but then, you know, you live and you learn. And I'm a great believer, you know, I love Maya Angelou quotes. I was talking about this earlier as well. And there's one of her most famous quotes is, once you know better, do better. And I think,
is that Maya Angelou?
Yeah.
Amazing.
And I just think
that's a really powerful quote, isn't it?
Yeah. And I just think that's it, because it's just like, it's not beating up your former self. It's accepting you have a busy life and you have things, but it's just taking into consideration every time you buy, how can I make this decision, you know, more planet friendly?
Sure.
Is it a case that, you know, I consider secondhand? Is it a case that I consider where the fabrics are from? Is it that I think about how it's made? You know, you can't necessarily tick all the boxes, because the problem is, unfortunately, because it's all commercial, which is good in the sense that people are starting to think about it, and it has to go through that system first, but they're using each individual one of these categories as a marketing strategy, aren't they? So
absolutely.
So then you can get trapped in the, oh, well, do I buy fair trade, or do I buy organic, or do I buy secondhand, or do I, you know? And fact of the matter is, unless you're a millionaire, you probably can't do it all. But it's actually, that's why I say to you, if you can be conscious that I'm trying to do one of those things, I'm trying to maybe not consciously buy from these fast fashion chains who are just throwing stuff out for £2 new. Like, how the hell has a t-shirt ended up on a rack for £2 new? Sure. You know, it's just like, actually take that into consideration.
And you're right, what you say, you know, or for somebody that might not be an option at the moment because the budget's so tight, but maybe they can refill their cleaning products instead at this stage. You know, I said to somebody the other day, because I'm in a situation in my divorce where money isn't the same way it used to be, and I said to somebody, the thing that I'm looking forward to when I do have more money again is that it will give me choice. It will enable me to make more choices that suit my ethos. That sometimes I can't do, but if I can't do them in one area, I can do them in another area, and that's what.
And I think it's 100% about knowing your limitations and not beating yourself up, and knowing, you know, what you can do, what you can't do. I mean, for example, having the boys, you know, I had twins. There was no way me mentally could deal with cloth nappies. It wasn't a choice for me. You know, I know some
I tried that, and oh my gosh, it's messy. It's the messiest thing ever.
I did cloth wipes for a year. That was fine. But then purely for budget reasons, for the first few years, we did use Aldi nappies. And I knew at that point how bad plastic nappies are versus the biodegradable ones, and it is genuinely shocking. I don't know if you've heard these statistics. So your average sort of Pampers kind of style nappy takes 500 years to rot down, versus your Natty or whatever biodegradable is 5 years. So that's literally the difference you're talking about. It's genuinely shocking. But I had to come to terms with that. You know, I didn't have the budget to buy Natty nappies throughout. But then when I got to the point, as we still are now, where the boys wear pull-ups at night, I thought, well, I now have a choice. This is the point where I have the choice. So I have now chosen to go biodegradable wipes, bags and pull-ups. Because we're now using 1 a night rather than 6 a day.
Big difference. Right. Jill, now this is great. I'm glad you mentioned the twins and being a mum of twins, because the personal thought of that, I may have actually run off and left my children. Self-care. We've done an episode about it before. I always like to ask our guests. I'd love to know how you implemented this during those early years. What is it to you in self-care? We're going a bit off your topic now, but I think it's
that's fine. Well, no, because what I love about being an eco-influencer is it's very much falls in with the whole holistic health. And as I say, you know, I've been a yogi for many years and everything. So I love that sort of side of things. And I had my own battles with insomnia. I went on medication, managed to get off it over lockdown and go down the holistic route. And it taught me a lot about things. But I also was quite avidly following a lady called Rachel Hollis. I don't know if you've heard of her, but she's an American woman who wrote a book famously called Girl Wash Your Face. And it's all about empowering women and stuff like that. But she also ran a really great challenge right at the beginning of lockdown when everything went in, called the 30-day challenge, where you were working through different self-care principles. And I've always been very much into self-help, self-care, that side of things anyway. But the reason why I raised her is there was this one particular thing she did which really resonated with me, which was she tasked everyone with writing a joy list. And you had to write a joy list of 10 to 20 things. And then she actively said, and now you need to schedule it into your day. And it just needs to be things, things which you can realistically get right now. So having a quiet cup of tea, maybe doing a 10-minute yoga video, maybe reading a chapter of your book, having a bubble bath, blah, 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 blah. And she says, we all have crazy busy lives.
Yes.
But that's why it's even more important that you schedule this into your day as part of your day, and you make, there's a book which she goes on about, which I've heard of lots of times, called The Power of Habit. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
I can't remember who it's by, but the concept rings true that when you get in these good habits, you see the difference it makes to your life, and it's so important. Now, case in point, throughout the month of June, and I didn't even realise I was doing it because I was just so busy, I fell off the self-care train. And by the end of June, I was really, really struggling with my anxiety, and I couldn't quite pinpoint why I was getting that. And now I've made that conscious decision again to go, right, I'm going to start doing my gratitude journal every night again.
Right. I've done the same. You fall off and you reap the consequences really quite quickly. And you have to make the effort to put that time. And it can just be, like you say, a few minutes.
Yeah. Makes the world of difference. But it's being kind to yourself with these things, you know, equally so with, you know, because I did a couple of CBT courses with the insomnia, and you know, then the thing which they tell you to do is get on an absolute rigid routine with your sleep, and you have to go to sleep at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every morning. And to be honest, that didn't fit my personality type, because actually it triggered my anxiety being that strict with myself.
Sure.
Because I kind of felt like I was naughty if I didn't manage it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's learning to be kind to yourselves within these strategies, and see it as something which you can take what works for you and understand what works for you. And it's all about developing your own personal toolkit, which, you know, hey, do you know, when I'm feeling this way, I know that this particular thing helps me. Sure. And it's not going to completely cure it or solve it necessarily, but it genuinely makes you just focus on the positive or feel a bit better, you know, and actually have time to do that.
It's that I just had a really awful winter with bereavement and anxiety and depression and money issues, and I wanted, you know, for it all to come at once was a lot for me. And Serena knows, we've talked about this. And the book that I'm currently writing is exactly that. I wanted to explain to people exactly what I'd gone through and how compounded it all was, and then tell them the tools that I use to keep my head above water, because I feel, you know, it's not a self-help manual. It's not a do this and it will work. It's saying, try this stuff. This is what worked for me. A bit of this, a bit of that. It's like a pick and mix. Do you know what I mean?
Like, I think the pick and mix concept is beautiful, because you don't always have time for all of it. It's like anything.
And I feel like it's the same approach that I had to motherhood. You know, I read lots of things when my babies were small, not because I thought there'd be answers, but because I thought there'd be things I could try. You know, and that's why we do people. That's it. You try stuff, don't you?
Yeah,
that's absolutely. Why we do the Love Thy Body project books as well, because it helps people in those, they get to read somebody else's small story and then they take inspiration from that. I'll give you one tip for self-care and that the habit stuff that you're doing, because I'm a self-love and body confidence coach, so I do lots and lots of work on self-love and self-care. When you're practicing your habits, when you're doing your habits, the things that you want to do, those self-care moments, implement them into something that you already do, like rigidly, like brushing your teeth, showering, having your breakfast, because when you put them into that, your habits stack in, and when you habits stack, like you will automatically brush your teeth, and straight afterwards you would pick up, you'd gurgle, and you'd go and have your breakfast. Oh, not your breakfast, because I would have my breakfast before I brush my teeth, but you know what I mean. Like you go and do something else straight away. Automatically, your brain's just doing it. So if you wanna, I don't know, read. Sit down make sure your book's there with your kettle. Put your kettle on, have your cup of tea, sit down, open the book. Because that is a habit stack, and it will automatically just happen. You won't even notice yourself doing it.
And it's only when you stop doing it that then you notice it. Another one which is very similar to that, which one of the yoga teachers I follow did, is she was talking about, okay, I've noticed I've got a negative habit, so it's how to replace that. And she was talking about the use of your mobile phone, and obviously over lockdown we've become even more reliant on them, because there are connections to the outside world when we can't physically see people. And she said she got into that bad habit of, you know, pick it up as soon as, you know, you wake up in the morning and go straight on Instagram. And she said, right, I'm going to tackle this. The way she was going to tackle it, so I need to cough. I'm sorry, was that she basically decided the night before 3 uplifting songs she was going to listen to.
Oh, I like that.
I love this. When she, and I haven't done it, I just heard it on a podcast and I was like, yes, that, I need to do that, but I haven't got around to it yet. But still, this is case in point. It's like 3 uplifting songs to listen to start her day. So that would be like, so yes, she would pick up, the habit would be, I'm picking up my phone, but rather than going straight into Instagram, she goes straight into that playlist and listens to that, and then that starts her day on a positive note. And I was like, that's beautiful and practical as well.
It's more realistic, isn't it? Like you say, it's almost a stepping stone. It's like I was listening to, oh gosh, I can't think what she was, but it's on a podcast and talking about some people, it's too much of a jump to stop being negative about their body to going positive. So instead of going negative to positive, they were going from negative to neutral. You know, just
So much
observing, I have a body. I know it sounds a bit weird, but it's too much for some people to go from I hate my fat legs to I love my legs. So it was just a transitioning.
I think it's like it's something which, you know, was a really positive thing from my upbringing actually, is that, you know, whilst we weren't really talking about, you know, shapes or sizes of things, it was almost like we were taught that our bodies were temples, and it was to appreciate you have working limbs, or you have like this works, and like even when you do have physical disabilities, it's understanding, okay, so this one thing doesn't work, but look at all the things that do work. It's all that positive mindset piece.
Definitely. Yeah, no, that's true. I try and do it with my mindset and my thought process as well. So I'm quite good at this now. I'm somebody who's always talked negatively internally to myself. And now I'm very quick, if I do it, to hear myself doing it, note myself doing it, and stop myself doing it. And it has been a stepping stone process. It literally is that quick for me now. I'll go, no, stop, replace.
Yeah, and the one thing which I've seen on that whole piece, which have you heard of like the whole inner child work stuff?
Serena, we did Inner Goddess 2 weeks ago, so we've been talking about this.
Yes. I just love that concept of picking up a childhood photo and going, would you say that to that person? Because like, of course you wouldn't, especially as a mother, of course you wouldn't. You would never do that. So it's just like actually learning to be kind to yourself first. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
Absolutely agree. So I'm just curious. I know earlier on when Jo asked you, you said that you hadn't really received any resistance or anything. So I presume you've had no trolling or anything like that on social media, because we did one about trolling a few weeks ago, and
episode 54,
I think,
wasn't it?
Yeah, when you put yourself out there on social media, you kind of given permission for people just to say what they want about you, aren't you? You're kind of just putting yourself in that position. So I'm assuming that you haven't, but have you experienced any trolling?
I mean, I've kind of had like one kind of thing before, but honestly, my policy is no tolerance. I just don't have any tolerance at all. If any account is being rude or saying something controversial to me, or like making negative comments on your post, I mean, I was brought up with the mindset, if you haven't got something nice to say, then don't say it, you know. And I'm all for having a debate with someone about how to do things in a better way, or, you know, how to expand on what I'm talking about. But for someone to actually have a go at you, you know, I just think I don't have time for that. You know, I've got enough going on. I just block them straight away. And that's what I honestly would teach any child of mine to do, is I think this is an important piece as well. And maybe this is naive and a mother of very, very young children at the moment, but I'd like to think that I would encourage my kids to use social media, but use it in the right way, and understand that it's always okay to block people.
Yeah, absolutely. My son, I've obviously got 5, but my husband's Italian and I'm obviously British. So yesterday when we had the final was this is so there was a little bit about, well, what are we gonna do? Like, we went with Italy because there's a majority of Italians over the British right here.
I was going to ask you about this.
But my 8-year-old son, Theo, he's always very diplomatic when it comes to things. I bring my children up to be very kind, and so if I say to him, oh, who do you love the most, like, you know, he'll always go da, 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 and he'll point to everybody. He won't pick one person because he loves everybody the same. And yesterday one of my husband's friends is Italian, and he had England flags on his cheeks. So we were like, "That's the wrong flag. That's the wrong flag for you. You're Italian, and you've got." And he was like, "No, I'm supporting England." So we jokingly painted on the Italian flags onto the kids and to my husband to send him a photo back. And Theo was like, "I need England on here. I need Italy on here." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because I'm English and I'm Italian, so and I can't pick. I've got to love them both." And I just think that's just so sweet that, you know, he wasn't going to pick a side, because actually he loves both of the parts of him, and he loves all of his family. And yeah, I think you're right. If we can be role models for the next generation to show up on social media, and Joe and I, we're old. We're not that old, to be fair, but I mean, we are pre. You know, it didn't exist when we were teenagers. If it did, we would be like experts at it by now.
I lived my whole uni experience without Facebook. You know, literally, we were doing return bill charges on phone calls, and it was going on my parents' phone bill. God bless them. But you know, it's just.
Can you imagine
how quickly it's all developed?
About Jill, you come from a media background like me. You are somebody, you seem to come across like someone who finds it easy to talk. You don't seem like a shy and retiring wallflower, I would say. I feel that I enjoy having a platform. I enjoy that it's all like you said about being a children's TV presenter. I think that might have suited me, you know, that I like to be there in front of people. And I'm just wondering if you had any, it obviously evolved gradually, which probably helped, but did you have any reticence about putting yourself, your personal self, out there? I know a lot of what you do isn't totally personal.
I don't know, I think I'm one of those people who actually finds it easier to talk about. It's actually another Rachel Hollis thing, just to quote her on this, is because she does events and talking, and what she says is the 100% the one way to get on top of your nerves when you're talking in public setting is to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple, but if someone, like if I was in the work environment and someone got me to do a work presentation, I would fall to pieces, because I don't really know. And then I get all caught up in like, oh, I don't know how to represent their brand. Do you know what I mean? Because they've got, especially within a big like office setting and stuff, and there's a brand team, and there's like, everyone's got like corporate guidelines and everything like that. But for whatever reason, that kind of threw me, versus talking about stuff which I genuinely feel passionate about, and clients who I feel passionate about and passionate about their businesses. And I have exposure to, you know, what they're doing individually, and I don't feel nervous about that. So it is interesting, the psychological side of that piece. And I don't know how much of it is linked to control as well. I mean, how I've described it in the past is that if I was put on a stage and told, you talk about this, and I'd be nervous, whereas I was always the student in a university lecture of 200 people. If I didn't understand what they were talking about on stage, I would put my hand up comfortably and say, I'm sorry, can you explain that in another way? And that wouldn't make me feel nervous. And then I'd get feedback from others saying, oh, thank you so much for asking that. I was thinking the same, but I felt too nervous to do it. So
that makes sense.
Different people in different ways, I think, because like saying my older sister, for example, she's an academic. And we always say the difference between us is she'd comfortably walk into a lecture hall and do a presentation, but wouldn't feel so comfortable walking into a bar and introducing herself, whereas I'm the other way around.
I know what you mean. I would be the other way around as well.
Yeah. If I walked into a bar, I'd quite happily talk to strangers in that setting. But
we spoke to each other, didn't we? Party, Joe. We didn't know each other.
I know. I think a lot of what we're all saying here is it's about being confident to be you and be authentically you. It seems if you distill it down, that's where it comes to. And for me, I feel like I am intrinsically part of my brand because I live what I do. And I think that's what you're saying. I think each of us do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can talk about underwear and sex and self-love and self-care all day long. Till the cows come home,
What lights
as
you
they
up? You
say.
found what lights you up. This is the thing. It's
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
about energy. It's about, that I do believe that people have something which they want to give to the universe. And I think sometimes it takes, I'm in my late 30s now. And I kind of feel like it's taken me to this point to just be like, oh, right, yeah, this is what I want to talk about.
Right, right. And I've had conversations where I said, oh, I wish it happened before. And then I'm reminded I needed to get to this point. I needed everything that went before to take me to where I am now.
100%.
Yeah.
Definitely. Jill, it's been so lovely. Tell our viewers / listeners where they can reach you.
Okay, so my blog, my website is jamjargill.com, and you can find me on any platform under JamJarGill, at JamJarGill. That's me. I do now also have my virtual assistant business as well, if you need any support with that side of things. It is a tab on my website. There is also a separate Instagram profile. But you can find all the links in my bio on Instagram. That's where I spend most of my time. So
amazing, thank you. And for everyone listening and not watching, it's Jill with a G, not Jill with a J.
Absolutely.
It's been lovely, really lovely, hasn't it, Serena? Really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome. So until next time, ladies, we'd love you to go and do what you can for the world around you and go and get more.
Bye.
Bye.